Welcome, gentle traveller. I'm so glad you found your way here, to this quiet edge of the world, where the air is thin and clean, and the sky glows softly, like a dream half remembered. Tonight, we drift northward, beyond the map's last blue line, to a realm where the horizon melts into light, the Arctic, the place where silence has a sound. Here, the wind carries no hurry. It hums low across the snowfields, folding itself around sleeping glaciers and frozen seas. You can almost hear the pulse beneath it all. Slow, steady, ancient. The heartbeat of ice. Take a breath. Slowly, deeply, and let the coldness clear your thoughts. Notice how it feels. The air brushing through you, your lungs expanding gently, the warmth within you rising to meet the chill. Even here, at the planet's farthest reach, life endures, not in defiance, but in perfect balance. Somewhere beneath the snow, roots sleep, moss clings to stone. A single Arctic fox crosses the white expanse, its paws leaving whispers instead of footprints. And overhead, the aurora unfurls, a slow, silent ripple of green and violet, as if the sky were exhaling colour. The light bends and folds, a living breath of solar wind brushing Earth's magnetic skin. We once thought this place empty, a barren wilderness of ice and shadow. But it is not emptiness you feel here. It is memory. Every layer of ice beneath your feet holds the record of the world. Air trapped from ancient summers, dust from long-vanished deserts, storms whose names were never spoken. If you listen closely enough, you can hear the earth breathing through them. A deep inhale, a long, patient exhale. Snow falling, ice forming, oceans shifting, all of it moving in rhythm, with the quiet music of gravity and sun. The poles, Arctic and Antarctic, are the lungs of the planet. They keep time for everything that grows. When one exhales, the other inhales. When one melts, the other dreams of frost. Together, they hold the balance. A slow duet between light and darkness, between sleep and awakening. And even now, far below the ice, warm currents drift upward from the equator, meeting cold water in a silent exchange. This is the bloodstream of Earth, a ceaseless circulation that carries oxygen, feeds coral reefs, and lifts the clouds that one day will fall again as rain upon your window. Even here, where everything seems frozen, the planet is moving. Gently, deliberately. The glaciers shift with the patience of mountains. Snowflakes drift with the grace of thought. Each breath of wind carries stories, from continents you've never seen. So as you listen tonight, let each word fall like snow upon the surface of your mind. Let them settle softly, one by one, until the noise of the day disappears beneath them. No hurry, no wait, only stillness, and the faint, rhythmic crackle of ice shifting under starlight. Let your breath slow to the rhythm of the world's northern heart. Inhale the light rising across the ice. Exhale the dark folding gently around you. You are not outside this landscape, you are within it. Its calm lives in your pulse. Its silence lives in your breath. And now, as the aurora shimmers above, the planet's own lullaby in light, we begin our quiet journey northward, to the edge of sound, to the beginning of stillness, to the heart of cold that keeps the world alive. So rest, traveller. Let the night wrap around you like snow. Let the light of the poles guide your dreaming. For in this silence, the earth is about to speak. Every flake of snow is a tiny miracle of geometry. Born high in the troposphere, it begins as a dust grain wrapped in vapour, a single crystal forming in air colder than breath. Around it, water molecules gather, locking together in six-fold symmetry, a frozen mandala sculpted by temperature, humidity, and chance. No two snowflakes are alike, not because chaos rules, but because the sky never repeats the same conditions twice. Each flake grows along invisible gradients, slightly warmer here, drier there, creating arms that branch and curl, each one reflecting the story of its descent. Scientists call it crystallography, yet even their instruments can't predict a flake's final form. The process is too delicate, too alive with fluctuation. At 92 degrees Celsius, snow grows thin and plate-like. At 15 degrees Celsius, it blossoms into stellar dendrites, those intricate six-armed patterns we remember from childhood. Under a microscope, a snowflake is light, frozen in motion. No line is drawn twice, no edge is sharp. The ice bends light through its lattice, scattering brilliance across its crystalline face. And when it lands, it doesn't shatter. It joins others, becoming part of a drifting sheet, a soft architecture of repetition and surrender. Each winter storm releases trillions of these forms, each perfect, each impermanent. They melt, merge, vanish, only to return again when vapor rises anew. The cycle never ends, it only changes phase. To hold a snowflake is to hold a moment. It will not last in your palm, but for an instant, you can feel the pattern of balance, symmetry born from imperfection, nature's quiet proof that order and chaos are not opposites, but partners in beauty. And when it melts into your skin, the flake doesn't die. It simply returns home, to air, to cloud, to possibility. Imagine a sheet of ice 1,000 meters thick, stretching farther than the eye can see. It looks still, silent, but beneath its calm lies time itself. Glaciers are rivers frozen into centuries. They form when snow piles faster than it melts, each layer pressing down, compressing the flakes below into solid ice. Within that ice are tiny bubbles, trapped pockets of ancient air, untouched for tens of thousands of years. Scientists call them climate archives, for they hold the chemistry of vanished atmospheres. By drilling deep into these frozen cores, we can read the planet's past like tree rings. Each layer tells of temperature, of volcanic ash, of carbon dioxide rising or falling. Through them, we've learned the rhythm of ice ages, the breathing of the Earth itself, a pattern of expansion and release, cold and warmth repeating over millennia. And yet, glaciers are not static. They move, imperceptibly, but constantly. A slow, deliberate flow toward the sea. Crevasses open like sighs. Meltwater carves tunnels through their blue hearts. Even frozen, water finds motion. When pieces break away, they birth icebergs, cathedrals of light and silence, adrift upon the ocean's skin. As they melt, their fresh water cools the sea, altering currents, feeding plankton, weaving into the cycle of life again. To touch a glacier is to touch breath made solid, the exhale of storms long forgotten. Its surface shimmers not with frost, but with compressed centuries of light. And as it retreats under a warming sky, it releases the sighs of ages past, reminding us that memory, once frozen, always returns to flow. There are months each year when the sun never rises. The world turns beneath an endless shadow, and yet, in that darkness, something luminous unfolds. This is the polar night, a season not of absence, but of transformation. When the sun slips below the horizon for the last time, the sky deepens into blue so rich it feels liquid. Stars sharpen until the air itself seems crystalline. The moon climbs higher, lingering for days, its pale glow brushing mountains and ice like silver breath. But the true light of the polar night comes from within the dark. The aurora, particles from the sun stream toward Earth, caught by its magnetic field, spiraling toward the poles. When they collide with oxygen and nitrogen, the atoms awaken, releasing color, green first, then pink, then violet. The sky dancing in slow, soundless waves. The people who live beneath this darkness learn to move differently. Their rhythms shift to the stars. They walk by moonlight, work by aurora, and measure time in shades rather than hours. In this world without dawn, light becomes sacred. A candle's flame feels as vast as the Sunday. Scientists studying circadian cycles here to find something fascinating. The human body adapts. Its internal clock slows, heart rate eases, dreams deepen. Darkness, when embraced, becomes medicine. The polar night is a lesson in patience. It reminds us that the sun does not vanish. It only hides behind the curve of the world, waiting. And when it finally returns, spilling gold across the horizon, you realize that night was never empty. It was simply full of other light. There are places on Earth where the sun does not set. It circles the horizon endlessly, touching mountains, skimming ice, never dipping fully below. This is the midnight sun, a slow miracle that rewrites our sense of time. At the height of summer, north of the Arctic Circle and south of the Antarctic, the tilt of Earth's axis keeps the poles bathed in light for months. The planet turns, but its angle holds steady, a gesture of quiet defiance against darkness. And so, for nearly 24 hours each day, the sun drifts in a glowing loop across the sky, casting shadows that never lengthen. To stand beneath it feels surreal, as if the world has forgotten how to end a day. Birds sing at midnight, flowers stay open through the small hours, and rivers sparkle with gold even as the clock insists it's night. Human sleep falters here, bodies confused by brightness that never softens. Yet many who live in these regions learn to love it. They speak of light fever, a burst of energy that fuels them through the long season of glow. Photons from the midnight sun travel through more atmosphere than at noon, scattering red and gold hues across the land. That's why Arctic landscapes look eternal at twilight, the world caught in a loop between day and dream. To watch it is to feel the planet's tilt, the geometry of our orbit made visible. You sense the cosmos in motion, not through stars, but through the sun refusing to rest. When the light finally fades, and the first true night returns, the world exhales. But for a brief, impossible while, the Earth itself seems to glow, as if remembering what forever feels like. Beneath the frozen sea, where sunlight never reaches, there is music, low, haunting, unhurried. It rolls through the deep like breath itself. Whales sing in the language of pressure and vibration. Their voices carry for thousands of kilometers, passing through cold water that amplifies every tone. Each note bends and reshapes as it travels, creating harmonies that move slower than time. The bowhead whale, native to Arctic waters, can live over 2 centuries, a keeper of songs older than nations. During the long polar night, it sings to find others, to map the ocean, to echolocation through miles of shifting ice. Their calls resemble the wind itself, drawn-out sighs, deep bellows, the sound of memory traveling unseen. Scientists have mapped these frequencies, finding structure like music, phrases, refrains, improvisations. Each population of whales develops its own dialect, changing subtly year by year, a symphony of evolution, alive and adaptive. In the deep cold, sound is more than communication, it is connection. Light fades after a few hundred meters, but sound moves on, linking distant pods, bridging vastness through vibration. When ice cracks overhead, the whales fall silent for a moment, listening. Then they resume, their calls resonating through black water, reaching ears unseen. It's a reminder that silence, too, is part of the song. Each echo that returns tells them where they are, how deep, how near to land, how alive. Their music paints the map of their world, and in a way, it paints ours too. Proof that sound can outlast light, that even in darkness, communication continues, softly, endlessly. At the edge of the world, the air itself begins to shimmer. Invisible currents rise from the ice, carrying whispers from the frozen sea into the endless night. This is the polar wind, the breath of the earth, flowing out into space. Unlike the winds we feel on our skin, this one is made of charged particles. Oxygen, hydrogen, electrons, a escaping from the upper atmosphere along magnetic lines. It drifts away from the poles at hundreds of kilometers per second, a quiet exhalation from our living planet. Satellites first detected it decades ago, streams of ions glowing faintly against the void. To scientists, it's a plasma flow. To poets, it's the soul of air set free. As solar winds strike our magnetosphere, they interact with the polar wind, a meeting of two breaths, stellar and terrestrial. The result? Auroras, those ribbons of colour rippling across the sky, painting night with proof that space and Earth are in dialogue. But even when no aurora burns, the polar wind continues, steady and patient. It carries atoms that once formed part of oceans, mountains, even you, a slow migration of matter from our world into the cosmos. The Earth, then, is not a sealed sphere. It's porous, alive, sharing constantly with the universe around it. Every gust you feel, every sigh you release, joins that larger exhale, a reminder that atmosphere is not confinement, but communion. So next time the wind brushes past your face, pause. Listen for its higher echo, the one you can't hear, but that carries your breath among the stars. The air we breathe is the same air the planet breathes back, a cycle without beginning, without end. Out on the polar sea, you can see them gliding, white, immense, shaped by silence. Icebergs, floating cathedrals of frozen time. They begin as snow, falling on glaciers centuries ago, layer upon layer compressed by its own weight, each crystal becoming denser, bluer, until gravity itself sighs, and the glacier calves. A thunderous crack, a splash, and a mountain begins to float. 9/10 of an iceberg lies hidden below water. What we see gleaming peaks are only fragments of the whole. Beneath the surface, arches, towers, and valleys shimmer in translucent blue. Sunlight filters through, splitting into halos of green and violet. It is ice remembering light. Drifting with ocean currents, icebergs travel for years. They melt slowly, fresh water merging with salt. As they dissolve, they release trapped minerals, feeding plankton blooms, the invisible forests of the sea. From this bloom, fish feed. From fish, whales. From whales, the cycle continues. Each iceberg hums faintly as it melts. Sensors detect soft vibrations, music made by ice collapsing inward. Scientists call them ice songs. Nature calls it goodbye. When one finally disappears, it doesn't vanish. It becomes rain, fog, the pulse of another ocean. Each drop carries the memory of a frozen century. Each wave holds the echo of distant snow. To see an iceberg drift past the horizon is to witness impermanence made beautiful, a reminder that even the coldest things eventually learn how to let go. Beneath Antarctica's frozen crust lies an ocean that no light has ever touched. Buried beneath kilometers of ice, these subglacial lakes and seas remain sealed from the sky, ancient, pressurized, and alive. Lake Vostok is one of them, as large as Lake Ontario, hidden beneath 4,000 meters of ice. For millions of years, it has remained isolated from the surface, its waters warmed not by sunlight, but by the heat of the earth below. When scientists drilled into it carefully, they found life. Microbes thriving in darkness, feeding on minerals and chemical energy instead of light. This is called chemosynthesis, the same process used by deep-sea creatures around hydrothermal vents. Here, in the planet's coldest place, life whispered, "I am still here." Above, the ice sheet moves like a slow river, creaking, shifting, sealing its secret world. Sensors detect subglacial streams, flowing through cracks and valleys, connecting hidden lakes like veins. Even here, motion persists, the steady heartbeat of frozen Earth. These dark waters fascinate astrobiologists. They see in them a mirror of distant moons, Europa, Enceladus. Worlds of ice, hiding oceans beneath their shells. To study Antarctica's buried sea is to glimpse the blueprint of life beyond our planet, and perhaps to remember that even in the deepest stillness, life doesn't stop waiting. It adapts, soft as breath beneath stone, surviving where warmth seems impossible. The ocean under ice reminds us that what we cannot see still sustains the world, quietly, patiently, faithfully. On clear nights in the polar regions, the stars don't just shine, they burn. The air is so cold, so dry, that it no longer scatters light. The heavens sharpen into an impossible clarity, as if you could reach out and brush your fingers across Orion's belt. At the South Pole, astronomers build telescopes not for convenience, but for perfection. Here, the atmosphere is thinner, the turbulence of air almost gone. Starlight travels unbroken, a pure beam from ancient fire. In the polar night, the constellations circle endlessly. They never set. They turn and return, like thoughts around a quiet mind. The Southern Cross, the crown of Cassiopeia, the faint band of the Milky Way, a river of stars arcing through eternal dusk. The Inuit once used these patterns as navigation maps, naming them for the animals that sustained them: the caribou, the whale, the raven. For them, the stars were not distant. They were ancestors, guides, companions in the long cold. Through telescopes, we now know those stars differ, some burning with hydrogen, some collapsing into neutron cores, some already gone, their light only just arriving. The sky we see above the poles is the oldest museum in existence, and yet, when you look up, you don't feel small. You feel included, because here, under the clean silence of the poles, the distance between you and the stars feels thin, as though, in this moment, you and they are breathing the same cold air. The universe doesn't look down on you here. It looks back, and it seems to whisper, "You are made of what I am made of." Deep beneath the crust, far below the frozen tundra and the polar storms, lies an invisible current, a pulse of molten iron flowing through the Earth's core. It is this movement that gives rise to our magnetic field, the unseen force that guides birds, compasses, and cosmic light. At the poles, this field converges. Lines of magnetism dive straight into the planet, drawing the very breath of the sun toward us. It is why auroras are born here, why charged particles paint the sky. The poles are not just coordinates, they are gateways, openings between Earth and the cosmos. When explorers first arrived centuries ago, their compasses faltered. Needles spun wildly, refusing to obey. They realized something profound. North and south are not fixed points on the planet's skin. They drift. The magnetic poles wander slowly each year, shifting under the restless churn of Earth's molten core. Right now, the North Magnetic Pole is racing towards Siberia at nearly 60 kilometers a year, a reminder that even the invisible refuses to stay still. Animals have known this forever. Migrating birds, sea turtles, and whales carry internal compasses, tiny crystals of magnetite embedded in their cells. They can feel the field, orienting themselves across oceans and continents. To them, direction is not calculation, it's instinct. The world itself hums beneath their skin, and they follow. In the stillness of the poles, the magnetosphere is strongest. It hums faintly, a soft vibration of energy brushing the upper air. Satellites record these whispers as fluctuations in plasma, but to those standing on the ice, it feels like presence, as if the planet itself were alive and aware. So when you hold a compass, and the needle trembles northward, remember, it's not pointing to a place, it's pointing to motion, to the living heart of the Earth, turning in slow, eternal rhythm, beneath our feet. On the coast of Antarctica, beneath cliffs of ice and sky, penguins gather, black and white against the endless white, a living tide of feathers and determination. They are not built for ease. The cold cuts to bone. Winds reach speeds of 200 kilometers per hour. Yet here they thrive. thousands huddled close, their bodies forming a single shifting sphere of warmth. Each penguin takes a turn on the outside, enduring the cold, then moving inward to rest. A choreography of care, nature's lesson in collective endurance. Their calls echo across the ice, sharp, rhythmic, carrying far in the thin air. Each voice is distinct. Mates recognize each other's songs, even in crowds of thousands. Love, in this world, is found by sound. When summer comes, the sun refuses to set, and the ice begins to melt. Then, the colonies burst into motion. Eggs hatch. Chicks stumble and chirp, their down soft against the glare of the snow. Parents take turns diving into freezing waters, their bodies sleek as arrows, their speed reaching 30 kilometers per hour. Below the surface, light bends through layers of blue. Krill shimmer like dust motes in a cathedral. Each dive is a dance between hunger and danger. For leopard seals wait below, silent as shadows. And yet, every year, they return. Every year, life begins again at the world's edge. Because here, to survive is to move in rhythm, with tide, with temperature, with trust. Penguins remind us that resilience does not mean standing alone. It means standing together, against wind, against cold, against time, and finding warmth not in the sun, but in each other. Step onto the frozen sea at dawn and listen. The ice speaks. Soft clicks, low moans, echoes rising through the still air. It's not your imagination. The ice really sings. As the temperature shifts, the frozen surface expands and contracts. Cracks form deep below, vibrating like the strings of a colossal instrument. Sound travels far through ice, cleaner, faster than through air. Each tone bends and warps as it moves across pressure ridges and trapped air pockets. Sometimes it sounds like whales, sometimes like thunder underwater, sometimes like the earth dreaming. Scientists record these harmonics to study ice thickness and stability. They call it cryoseismology, the science of frozen sound. But even they admit the result feels mystical. To hear the sea ice move is to hear a conversation between sky and ocean translated into resonance. Divers beneath the surface describe it best. The sound is everywhere. It wraps around them, vibrating through bone, a deep hum that feels alive. Every creak is a memory of tide and temperature, a record of change sung in frequencies too ancient for language. At night, when the aurora flares overhead, the two voices, light and sound, seem to answer one another. The sky glows, the ice hums. Together, they perform the quietest symphony in the world. If you ever stand there, boots sinking slightly into snow, ears filled with that low vibration, you'll realize silence doesn't mean absence. It means listening deeper, until you hear what's been singing all along. Beneath the thick ceiling of Antarctic ice, there are places where light never dies. It travels down through fissures and snowfields, scattering and softening, until it becomes something else entirely. A blue that isn't color, but temperature, memory, and time combined. Scientists call this phenomenon optical diffusion. The ice acts as both prism and veil, breaking sunlight into threads so fine. They seem woven into the ice itself. At depth, the world glows turquoise, light filtered through centuries of compression, each layer bending the spectrum until only blue remains. To stand inside an ice cave here is to step into another atmosphere. Walls glimmering like glass, arches echoing faintly with dripping meltwater. Your breath fogs, your pulse slows, and for a moment, you forget the horizon above. The light that fills these caves is alive. It shifts with the angle of the sun, rippling faintly, as though the ice were dreaming of the sky. Photons bounce between crystals, hundreds of times before escaping, which is why they carry such softness. No shadow survives here, only gradations of quiet luminescence. For researchers descending into these caverns, It's more than beauty. It's data. By studying how light scatters through ice, they learn about the purity of ancient snowfall, about volcanic eruptions and cosmic dust that once fell into polar storms. Every hue of blue tells a story of age and air. But when you stand there, far from science, far from noise, the meaning becomes simpler. It feels like standing inside a frozen sky. You begin to realize that the world's most profound light doesn't blaze. It glows, quietly, patiently, forever. Deep in the permafrost, beneath the frozen soil of Siberia and Alaska, lie cells older than civilization. Tiny organisms, bacteria, spores, viruses, entombed in ice for tens of thousands, sometimes even millions of years. And yet, when scientists thaw them carefully, some awaken. They move. They divide. They live. How is it possible? Inside the ice, time slows to near stillness. Metabolism falls almost to zero. The cells endure. Not alive in the usual sense, but not dead either. Suspended between moments, waiting for warmth to return. Researchers studying these ancient microbes have discovered species completely unknown to science. Resilient forms that survive radiation, lack of oxygen, and centuries without sunlight. They carry genetic traces of climates long vanished, messages from epochs before humanity began. It's not just curiosity. These organisms help us understand how life might exist beyond Earth, beneath the frozen crusts of Mars or the buried oceans of Europa. The resilience found in a single Arctic microbe could rewrite our definition of survival, and yet there's reverence in this work. Each vial of melted permafrost feels like a letter opened too late, a memory breathing again. Some call it dangerous, others miraculous. But what it truly is continuity. The ice is not a tomb, it is a cradle. It holds what the world might need to remember when everything else forgets. If life can wait 1,000,000 years for sunrise, then perhaps patience is the oldest form of hope. When you stand on a perfectly frozen lake, something strange happens. The horizon vanishes. Up and down become one. The sky repeats itself so clearly that it's impossible to tell where heaven ends and earth begins. This is not illusion. It's physics, perfected. When ice freezes without bubbles or snow, its surface becomes smoother than glass. A thin layer of meltwater forms on top, creating the most flawless mirror on Earth. Light strikes it and reflects nearly whole. Mountains double. Clouds float both above and below. And when the aurora shimmers overhead, it ripples through its reflection so that green waves appear to rise from within the ice itself. Photographers call this infinite sky. Scientists call it specular reflection. But to the heart, it feels like stepping between worlds. In those moments, the air stills. The world seems balanced on silence. Every step you take creates a faint echo beneath your feet, a reminder that what looks solid is only frozen motion. In ancient times, the Sami people of the north believed these mirrored plains were spirit paths, places where ancestors walked between stars and snow. Perhaps they were right, for when the light hits just right, you feel as though you're walking, not upon the world, but within its reflection. The mirror of ice teaches a quiet lesson, that beauty often hides in transience. One gust of wind, 1 hour of sun, and the illusion disappears. But for that single breath of stillness, you glimpse eternity, folded neatly into now, before dawn. When the world is still holding its breath, frost begins to bloom. It creeps across windows, branches, and blades of grass, delicate, fractal, alive. Each crystal grows out of nothing visible, spreading from a single mote of dust or pollen, turning air into architecture. Frost forms when moisture in the air touches a surface colder than freezing. The vapor doesn't melt first, it skips the liquid phase entirely, transforming directly into solid ice. Scientists call this deposition, but the name doesn't capture its magic. It's the sky painting quietly while we sleep. Under a microscope, frost is kin to snowflakes, branches of hexagonal ice radiating from a single seed point. But because frost grows along the shape of what it lands on, no two are ever the same. Each leaf becomes its own frozen map, each window a gallery of light. When sunlight touches it, the frost shimmers, edges glowing white-blue, tips flaring gold for an instant before vanishing. It's beauty that exists only in the moment, then retreats back into air. For centuries, poets have called frost the breath of winter, and it truly is. Each crystal forms from exhaled air, from the moisture of lungs, the whisper of trees, the sigh of rivers cooling into sleep. Every morning, the world inhales and exhales in silence, its breath turning visible for just a heartbeat. Frost teaches impermanence, that perfection can exist briefly, that beauty doesn't need to last to be real. If you touch it, it's gone. But for that one fragile dawn, you and the air share the same secret. That cold can create tenderness, and silence can bloom. The earth does not stand still, even in its spin. Its poles, those invisible points where rotation meets sky, wander, not in chaos, but in rhythm. Scientists call this phenomenon axial precession, a slow wobble caused by the tug of the moon and the sun on Earth's equatorial bulge. It's subtle. One full cycle takes nearly 26,000 years, but over time, it changes everything. The North Star itself will shift. Constellations will drift. What was once Polaris will one day be Vega. Even the planet's axis tilts slightly back and forth, a small oscillation called nutation. Combined, these movements create the grand clockwork of seasons and sky. Winter, summer, solstice, equinox. They're not fixed events, but slow choreography written in gravity. Ancient astronomers sensed it before they could prove it. They built stone circles aligned with the rising sun, and century by century, I noticed the light no longer fell where it once had. The Earth, it seemed, was not entirely faithful to its own spin. Today, satellites confirm this ancient intuition. Even the distribution of water, melting glaciers, rising seas, can shift the planet's balance slightly, nudging the poles by centimeters each year. Our world, then, is less like a machine, and more like a living gyroscope, always adjusting, always correcting. There's humility in that motion. Even our planet, vast and enduring, sways gently as it turns. It reminds us that balance isn't stillness. It's movement repeated so patiently that it begins to feel like peace. So when you gaze north and see Polaris hanging steady in the night, remember that even constancy drifts. The universe is never motionless. It only moves in ways too slow for us to notice. In the long Arctic night, when even the sun forgets to rise, life does something extraordinary. It slows itself into stillness. Bears retreat to dens, their breath deep and even. Their heartbeats drop from 40 per minute to just 8. Their temperature lowers slightly. Their muscles stop wasting away. For months, they do not eat, drink, or move. Yet when spring comes, they emerge strong, alive, renewed. This is hibernation. Not death, not sleep, but a biological meditation. A deliberate surrender to conserve life. Inside the bear's body, chemistry becomes grace. Fat converts into water and warmth. Urea, which should poison, is recycled into protein. Even the brain slows its rhythm, producing waves closer to dream than thought. Scientists study this to learn how humans might one day sleep through long space voyages or recover from injury in deep rest. But beyond the science, there's something spiritual here. The idea that rest is not weakness, it's wisdom. That life, to continue, must sometimes withdraw. Other creatures do the same. Frogs freeze solid in winter, their blood turning to crystal. Then thaw and leap again come spring. Ground squirrels hibernate so deeply Their hearts may stop for minutes at a time, and yet, some spark inside them endures. Hibernation is nature's quiet protest against the need to always move forward. It's the planet's way of saying, stillness is also survival. So when winter comes for you, not of snow, but of the soul, remember the bear sleeping beneath the snow. Remember the body's faith in its own renewal. Everything living knows this truth. Life doesn't end when it pauses. It gathers strength to begin again. When snow begins to fall, the world changes its voice. Roads soften, forests hush, even the air seems to hold its breath. It's not imagination, it's physics turned into poetry. Snow absorbs sound. Each flake, though delicate, is a labyrinth of tiny air pockets. When sound waves strike this structure, they scatter and weaken, their echoes swallowed by billions of frozen fractals. The result is a phenomenon scientists call acoustic absorption, but most of us simply call it peace. Fresh snowfall can reduce surrounding noise by up to 60%. The world becomes smaller, gentler, like being wrapped in the hush of a cathedral made of air. Every step you take crunches lightly, not noise, but texture. Your own breath becomes audible again. You begin to realize how loud life usually is. In that silence, something else appears. Clarity. Birds perch closer, listening. The mind, usually crowded with motion, starts to slow its turning gears. You begin to hear smaller things. A drip beneath the eaves, a crow in the distance, your heartbeat echoing in your chest. This quiet is not emptiness. It's fullness, the absence of excess, a stillness that invites awareness. That's why snow has long been sacred to poets and monks alike. It transforms chaos into calm. A storm ends, and suddenly, even the earth seems to exhale. Each snowflake, in its descent, carries not just cold, but quiet, folded into every crystal. Together, they create a world where the loudest sound is stillness itself. If you've ever stood beneath falling snow and felt your thoughts slow to match its rhythm, you've already experienced the physics of serenity, the science of peace, written softly in white. When water meets heat, something miraculous happens. It disappears. Or so it seems. Boiling water is not destruction, it's transformation. Every bubble that rises is a burst of molecules gaining enough energy to escape gravity, to lift themselves into vapor, to become cloud. The air you breathe right now once existed as ocean, as rain, as the faint mist above a kettle on a quiet morning. Evaporation is one of the oldest acts of renewal on Earth. It turns liquid into sky. Without it, there would be no clouds, no rain, no cycle of life. What looks like vanishing is actually migration. Every wisp of steam is a traveler, carrying energy from warmth to atmosphere. On a global scale, this invisible process balances the planet. Oceans release moisture, forests exhale vapor, mountains catch it again as snow. The water cycle is not a loop, it's a breath. Inhale, exhale, repeat. The pulse of Earth itself. Even our bodies participate. Every sigh, every warm exhale on a cold morning adds to the invisible veil of vapor that wraps our world. We are, quite literally, part of the sky. Steam also carries memory. Its swirling forms reveal turbulence, temperature, and even the chemistry of what it leaves behind. To scientists, it's data. To poets, it's prayer. When you watch steam rise, you are witnessing the same process that builds clouds, forms rainbows, and fills the heavens with rain. It is proof that nothing truly ends. It only rises. Water teaching us once again how to let go. Thunderstorms are the Earth's wild symphony, and at their heart, they are made of water. Inside, a storm cloud, countless droplets and ice crystals collide, rubbing and crashing as updrafts and downdrafts churn them together. These collisions separate charges, positive at the top, negative at the bottom, until the imbalance becomes unbearable. Then, with the power of a small sun, lightning strikes. That bolt, so bright it can blind for a heartbeat, is pure electricity leaping across the sky. Air transformed into plasma, water transformed into light. The temperature inside that channel reaches 30,000 degrees Celsius, hotter than the surface of the sun, and yet the rain that follows is cool, cleansing, restoring. Lightning doesn't just light the sky, it feeds the planet. Each flash creates nitrogen oxides, which fall with rain to nourish soil and plants. Without storms, the earth would be less fertile, less alive. Every thunderclap is more than sound. It's energy returning home. A wave of pressure rolling through clouds, mountains, and bones alike. Animals feel it. We feel it. Our ancestors worshipped it, not out of fear, but reverence. Because lightning is water remembering fire. When you see a storm flash across the horizon, you're watching the meeting of opposites. Air and ground, heat and cold, sky and sea, all joined in one luminous instant. And after the final rumble fades, and the rain begins to fall softly once again, the earth glows cleaner, the air sharper, the silence sweeter, as though the planet itself has taken a long, deep breath after the storm. When the air still smells of wet earth and renewal, the sky bends. A band of light curves across the horizon, not painted, but born. A rainbow is sunlight learning to speak the language of water. When sunlight passes through raindrops, each droplet becomes a prism. Light enters, bends, bounces, and exits, split into its hidden hues. Red bends least, violet most, and so they stretch apart, spreading across the sky in a perfect arc of sevenfold song. You never stand under a rainbow. You stand inside its geometry. The circle it forms is whole. It's only the horizon that hides half from sight. From the air, or from mountain tops, pilots sometimes see the full ring, a halo of colour embracing the earth. Each person sees their own rainbow. The droplets that make yours are not the ones your friend sees, for every angle of light is unique to every pair of eyes. It's a private miracle shared in public view. Rainbows are also records. Their brightness reveals droplet size, their curve shows the sun's position. To the physicist, they're a map of refraction and reflection. To the poet, their grace made visible. And sometimes, faintly, delicately, a second rainbow appears. Its colours reversed, its light dimmer, born of two internal reflections instead of one. A reminder that beauty echoes, that even after light has done its work, there's always one more whisper left to give. Ancient people believed rainbows were bridges, paths between worlds, signs of promise, or the gods' laughter after tears. Maybe they were right, for when a rainbow arcs through the fading rain, it feels like forgiveness, like the sky exhaling joy. It lasts only minutes, and yet, for those few breaths of colour, the world feels whole again. Stand by the sea, and you can hear history breathing. Each wave that touches shore was shaped by wind that may have blown days, weeks, or oceans away. The surface of the sea is a diary of distant weather. Waves are not water moving forward. They are energy travelling through it. The molecules mostly stay in place, rising and falling in circles, while the energy born of wind's friction moves endlessly onward. In that way, the ocean remembers everything. A gust in the South Pacific becomes a swell in California. A storm near Japan sends ripples to the Aleutian Islands weeks later. Even the smallest breeze leaves its trace, a faint trembling across the surface that fades but never truly dies. Scientists call this the wave spectrum. Every motion, large or small, adds its note to the sea's ongoing music. And though we see chaos, peaks, troughs, foam, the ocean is in fact a perfect record of wind's wandering hand. Waves also shape us. Their rhythm syncs with the human heartbeat, their frequencies matching the patterns our minds find soothing. That's why people fall asleep by the shore, why seafarers dream of tides. Our bodies are mostly water, and water recognizes itself. Even when the sea looks calm, there are waves beneath waves, deep, slow motions carrying the weight of centuries. Tsunamis cross entire oceans. Internal waves roll along thermoclines unseen. The planet itself is always breathing in blue. When you listen to the surf at night, you are hearing echoes of wind that blew long ago, somewhere you have never been, across stars you cannot see. The ocean keeps those whispers. It remembers everything, and it never stops speaking. Deep beneath the ocean floor, where sunlight never reaches, the Earth is constantly being born. Here, along volcanic ridges and vents, magma meets seawater, and creation begins again. When molten rock touches the sea, it hisses, cracks, and solidifies, forming new crust. Entire islands rise this way. Hawaii, Iceland, the Galapagos, all born from fire meeting water. But what's more astonishing is what happens under those eruptions. Around hydrothermal vents, superheated water rich in minerals bursts from the sea floor, glowing faintly in the dark. Temperatures can reach 400 degrees Celsius, yet just meters away, the water is near freezing. Life thrives in this paradox. Bacteria feast on chemicals like hydrogen sulfide, turning poison into nourishment. They form the foundation of entire ecosystems. Tube worms, crabs, shrimp, creatures that have never seen the sun, but glow softly in its absence. This is chemosynthesis, a different kind of photosynthesis. Life fed not by light, but by heat. Every eruption also rewrites the ocean floor. When lava cools, it forms pillow basalts, smooth, rounded stones like sleeping giants. Each one a record of the planet's heartbeat, the Earth literally exhaling new land. Volcanoes are not destruction, they are renewal. Each explosion is both an ending and a beginning. Rain falls, rock breaks, minerals return to sea, and the cycle continues. Fire feeding water, water shaping stone. Even above the waves, volcanic ash enriches soil, turning barren land into fertile valleys. The greenest forests grow from the darkest eruptions, creation and chaos intertwined, as they've always been. So when you see a volcano erupt, don't just see fire. See the planet remembering how to make itself again. See the patience of time, disguised as fury. Beneath the quiet soil, under forests, fields and mountains, there runs a secret world. It hums softly in darkness, rivers beneath rivers, streams that have never seen the light. This is the groundwater system, the silent circulatory flow of the earth. Rain falls, soaks through roots, slides between grains of sand and fissures of rock. Some of it lingers in aquifers, vast ancient reservoirs sealed within limestone, granite and clay. There, water can remain for thousands, even millions of years, cool, pressurized, and patient. When it finally resurfaces as a spring, it carries the memory of all it has touched. Groundwater doesn't simply exist, it moves. It dissolves minerals, carves caverns, creates stalactites that grow drop by drop over centuries. Calcium, magnesium, iron. The chemistry of stone becomes the flavor of life. Every sip from a mountain well is a fragment of that hidden geology, a whisper from the deep, and it's never still. Even through dense rock, water finds a way, molecule by molecule, migrating toward the lowest point, following gravity's gentle pull. Whole landscapes depend on this unseen flow. Deserts bloom around oases, where ancient aquifers rise to meet the air. Rivers begin underground, their sources invisible to the eye. Humans have always revered springs. They built temples beside them, called them eyes of the earth, and saw in their clarity a mirror of purity itself. For to watch water emerge from stone is to witness faith rewarded, the persistence of what cannot be stopped. The groundwater cycle reminds us, not all that nourishes can be seen. Life often travels in silence, below, beneath, beyond, and the softest sound in the world might be the slow, patient song of water moving through rock. In the shallow blue of tropical seas, there are cities older than empires, built not of stone, but of living light. Coral reefs are colonies of tiny animals called polyps, each one no larger than a grain of rice, yet together they create vast fortresses. Stretching for thousands of kilometers, the Great Barrier Reef, visible even from space, is the largest structure ever made by life. Corals build by secretion. They extract calcium from seawater and deposit it as limestone, a slow, ceaseless construction of architecture and memory. Every polyp adds a room, a wall, a tower. When they die, others grow atop them, layer after layer, century after century. But corals are also symbiotic. Within their tissues live tiny algae zooxanthellae that photosynthesize sunlight, feeding the coral while finding protection in return. It's a perfect partnership of light and flesh, the sea's own version of a garden and gardener in one. Underwater, the reef hums with colour and sound. Parrotfish scrape at coral, shrimp click their claws, whales sing in the distance. The water itself seems alive with conversation. Coral reefs are nurseries of the ocean. A quarter of all marine species begin their lives here, and yet they are fragile. Rising temperatures and acidifying seas can bleach them. The algae flee, and the corals lose both colour and life. Still, there is hope. Some reefs are adapting, forming hybrid species that can tolerate new extremes. Even in silence, they rebuild, because the ocean never stops trying. Coral is proof that creation is communal, that beauty, strength, and survival are things built together. One breath, one wave, one lifetime at a time. Across plains and dunes, where horizon meets horizon, there is a language without words. It begins when the wind arrives and the grass begins to speak. Each blade bends, bowing in rhythm with the breeze. Thousands move together, ripple upon ripple, a choreography of whispering green. This is aeolian motion, the physics of grace. When wind travels over fields, it doesn't simply pass, it plays. Every stalk resonates at a different frequency, producing low vibrations that blend with the rustle of leaves and the hum of soil. To some, it's background noise. To others, it's music, the sound of land breathing. Grass is one of Earth's oldest survivors. Its ancestors date back nearly 70 million years, outlasting extinctions, fires, and ice. Its secret lies in its flexibility. To bend without breaking, to root shallow yet wide. It protects soil from erosion, feeds countless species, and exhales oxygen as it sways. Even deserts hum with grass. Dry stalks clicking in rhythm with dust storms, their seeds waiting years for a single drop of rain. In the tundra, tiny grasses curl close to the ground, catching warmth where wind can't reach. They are everywhere life clings quietly to hope. Ancient nomads called it the sea that feeds. Poets still kneel in it. And if you ever lie down among tall grass, you'll understand why. The sound surrounds you. Soft, endless, alive. It slows your heartbeat. It tells you, without words, that the world is still breathing. Every field is a poem written by the wind. Every gust turns the page, and every wave of green reminds us that serenity does not always come from silence. Sometimes it comes from listening, in deserts where no rivers flow, where the horizon shimmers like a dream of heat. Mountains of sand rise, travel, and fade, alive, though they have no heart. Dunes are the footprints of the wind. Each grain of sand is a traveller, lifted, tossed, and carried by invisible hands. When the wind slows, the grains settle, layer upon layer, forming ridges that stretch for miles, curving like the spines of sleeping beasts. What looks still is never still. A dune moves slowly, sometimes centimeters a day, sometimes meters. Entire fields migrate over centuries, burying trees, uncovering bones, redrawing the landscape grain by grain. This is aeolian transport, a gentle force powerful enough to reshape continents. Every dune has a voice. When the sand is dry and the wind is right, they sing. Low, resonant tones rumble through the air, a phenomenon scientists call booming sand. The sound can last for minutes, rolling across the desert like thunder that forgot to fade. The mechanism is simple, but the result is magic. As layers of sand slide down the slope, they vibrate in unison, each grain rubbing against its neighbor, creating a chorus deep and haunting. It's the sound of the desert remembering motion. Nomads once said the dunes spoke to them. Warnings, stories, songs, and in a way, they were right. Dunes record wind direction, speed, and season within their rippling patterns. They are archives of weather, repositories of time. Under the moon, their shadows look like waves, and the desert becomes a frozen sea. Yet, unlike the ocean, these waves never break. They drift forever, patient, ancient, and free. If you listen closely at night, you might hear it, that deep, vibrating hum beneath your feet. It's not imagination. It's the world breathing through sand. It begins invisibly, as vapor rising from ocean, leaf, and breath. Billions of molecules drifting upward, gathering into cool air, finding one another through electric attraction. Clouds are born this way, not from nothing, but from the shared exhale of the world. Inside them, water condenses around dust, pollen, salt, tiny seeds of imperfection that become the nuclei of raindrops. At first, they're too light to fall. They drift within the cloud, colliding, merging, growing heavier, until one day, gravity whispers, "Now." When the drop falls, it travels through air thick with memory. Each one spins as it falls, shaping itself into a perfect sphere, flattened slightly by wind resistance. A teardrop only in myth. As it falls, it gathers scent. Dust, ozone, petrichor. The perfume of rain before it even touches ground. When it lands, it breaks into mist, its energy released in a soft sigh against soil, skin, or leaf. That one drop might seep into the ground, feed a root, or slip into a stream. It might join others to form a river, or vanish into evaporation once again. Its fate is infinite repetition. The same molecule that falls on your hand tonight may have once fallen on a fern in the Devonian age, or dripped from a glacier 10,000 years ago. Rain never truly begins or ends. It cycles endlessly, sky to sea, sea to sky. And when thunder rolls and lightning divides the clouds, it is the earth reminding itself of the pattern. Energy, water, gravity, return. Every storm is a rehearsal for rebirth. When you tilt your face upward in the rain, you're touching something older than time, a drop that has fallen, risen, and fallen again. For as long as the sky has existed, look at the ocean, and you are watching the moon at work. Its pull stretches the earth's seas, drawing water toward it in a slow, eternal breath. This is gravity, gentle, invisible, omnipresent. Twice each day, the tide rises and falls, but the water doesn't simply follow the moon. It moves in rhythm with both moon and sun, their gravitational dance weaving currents that circle the globe. At high tide, the ocean swells toward the sky, shorelines vanish, and the air smells faintly of salt and renewal. At low tide, the sea retreats, revealing the hidden world beneath. Barnacles, shells, the tracks of crabs and gulls. The tides are more than scenery. They are the heartbeat of marine life. Corals spawn by them. Sea turtles nest by their cycle. Kelp forests rise and fall with their pull, breathing in rhythm with lunar light. Even the Earth itself moves slightly with the tide. The solid crust flexes a few centimeters each day, a planetary sigh in response to celestial touch. And this dance has shaped time itself. Early humans used the moon's rhythm to measure days, to predict fish migrations, to guide journeys across unknown waters. The first calendars were tidal. The moon is slowly drifting away, 3.8 centimeters farther each year. One day, the tides will weaken, the rhythm will fade, but for now, it continues. The most patient embrace between worlds. Stand by the shore at dusk, and you can feel it, that subtle pull inside your body, because you too are mostly water. You move when the moon moves, you rise when the tide does, and together, you fall back into silence. Step into a forest and breathe. The air feels different here, thicker, softer, somehow alive. You are not imagining it. Forests exhale. Each tree, through its countless leaves, draws in carbon dioxide and releases oxygen. The slow, steady rhythm of life itself. But trees do not breathe alone. Through the soil beneath you, they are connected. Roots intertwined with threads of fungus, forming vast underground networks called mycorrhizal webs. These threads carry messages, nutrients, and warnings. When one tree is wounded, by drought, by disease, by insect, it sends out signals in chemicals and sugars, and nearby trees respond. They shift their growth, release protective compounds, even share stored carbon. It is not competition, it is conversation. Scientists call this the wood wide web. Indigenous traditions simply called it wisdom. A forest breathes in waves, oxygen rising by day, falling by night. With every sunrise, billions of leaves unfurl to drink light and release air, a sigh of renewal that wraps the entire planet. Every gust of wind you feel carries the echo of that breath. The life of the Amazon, the whisper of the tiger, the song of trees you will never see. Trees also create their own weather. By releasing moisture, they help form clouds above them, calling the rain back home. A single large tree can lift hundreds of liters of water a day into the air, its leaves shimmering like lungs beneath the sunday. When you stand in a forest, you stand inside a living body. Every trunk a vein, every root a nerve, every leaf a cell of something vast and patient. Listen long enough, and you'll feel it. A subtle vibration in the air, like a heartbeat too slow to hear but too real to deny. The forest is not many trees. It is one breathing thing. You cannot see the wind, and yet it sculpts everything, from deserts to mountains, from the curl of a wave to the curve of a dune. Wind is the great invisible artist of the earth, born from difference. Hot air rising, cold air sinking. It moves in endless pursuit of balance. That pursuit creates weather, spins clouds, builds storms, and smooths the very stones beneath our feet. Wind carries pollen from flower to flower, dust from one continent to another, even microscopic life across oceans. Tiny diatoms, seeds, spores, passengers of air, traveling thousands of miles unseen. What grows in one land may begin in another, carried by a breeze older than empires. In mountains, the wind howls and roars, a voice shaped by stone. In plains, it hums softly through grass, a sigh stretched over distance. And in the high sky, it moves in rivers, jet streams that circle the planet like silver threads, guiding storms, plains, and migrations alike. Even the ocean listens. Waves form and break to wind's command. The sound of surf is the wind made visible, the sky kissing the sea into motion. To the ancients, wind was spirit, breath of gods, the unseen soul of the world. To scientists, it is energy in motion, pressure and temperature trading places. But perhaps both are right, for when you stand on a cliff and feel the air rush past, it does not feel like nothing. It feels alive. Every gust, every breeze, every whisper through the trees is a reminder that the planet is always moving, always seeking harmony. And when it finally calms, for a moment, for a breath, you realize that silence, too, is part of the wind's design. Hold a drop of water on your fingertip and look closely. It is round, but not perfectly. It trembles, it reflects the room around you, it magnifies the world in miniature. Within that trembling surface is mathematics made visible. Water, left to itself, always seeks the smallest surface area possible. That's why droplets form spheres. Surface tension, the pull between molecules, acts like an invisible skin, holding each drop together in symmetry. It is the geometry of balance, written in motion. In rivers, that geometry stretches and folds. Eddies swirl into spirals, foam clusters into hexagonal patterns. In frozen form, the geometry becomes crystal. Snowflakes, each one unique, yet each following the same six-fold law. No two are identical, but none disobey symmetry. At the edge of waterfalls, mist rises in fractals, tiny droplets reflecting light, each one a prism, creating fleeting rainbows. Even the splash of a raindrop follows pattern. A central column, a crown, then a ring of ripples expanding outward, in perfect circles. To mathematicians, these forms are models of physics. To poets, they are proof that order hides inside chaos. And to nature, they are simply the most efficient way to exist. The geometry of water teaches something quiet but profound. That harmony isn't sameness, but repetition with variation. Every ripple echoes the last, yet none are identical. Every snowflake shares a rule, yet invents its own form. The universe works the same way, patterns repeating across scales, from galaxies to raindrops. And in that reflection, we see ourselves. Individual yet connected, brief yet infinite, each one a ripple in the same grand design. In the rainforest, rain doesn't simply fall, it breathes. It rises, cools, returns, again and again. In a cycle so constant, the forest and the sky share a single pulse. Each morning, mist rises from the canopy, the forest exhaling the water it drank through the night. That vapor meets sunlight, swells into clouds, and by afternoon falls back as rain. Then, the cycle begins again. The Amazon alone releases 20 billion tons of water vapor every day, enough to form its own weather. This is called evapotranspiration. But in simpler words, it is communion. The trees create their own sky. Their leaves open pores, tiny mouths, releasing moisture molecule by molecule, feeding clouds that will one day feed them again. Every drop that falls carries the memory of the forest, the oils, the pollen, the scent of decay and renewal. It's what gives rain its smell, its earthy sweetness that humans instinctively find calming. That scent petrichor is the perfume of balance. The forest needs the rain, and the rain needs the forest. Without trees, clouds drift away. Without rain, roots wither. They depend on each other like lungs and breath. Destroy one, and the other forgets how to exist. Yet when you stand beneath that green cathedral and listen to the downpour above, you can feel their unity. The sound isn't chaos. It's rhythm, pulse, 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 as though the planet were whispering its heartbeat through water. Every drop that lands on leaf, soil, or skin has been part of this cycle for millions of years. Rising, falling, remembering. The forest, in its infinite patience, teaches the simplest truth of all. To give is to receive. High in the mountains, or across the poles, there lie the slowest rivers on Earth. They move not in seconds or minutes, but in centuries. They are glaciers, time made visible. A glacier begins as snow that never melts. Each winter adds another layer, pressing the one before it deeper, tighter, heavier. Air is trapped between crystals, tiny bubbles holding the atmosphere of vanished ages. As centuries pass, the snow transforms into ice, and the ice begins to flow. It creaks, groans, and sighs, its mass sliding down valleys in movements too slow to see. But the sound, that deep, ancient hum, is the sound of gravity shaping history. Scientists drill into these frozen archives, pulling up ice cores that stretch back hundreds of thousands of years. Inside each centimetre lies a year's worth of memory. Volcanic ash, desert dust, trapped gases. A diary of the planet's breath. From them, we learn when forests spread, when oceans warmed, when humanity first appeared. Glaciers also carve the face of the world. Their weight crushes mountains, their meltwater feeds rivers, their retreat writes valleys into stone. The very shape of continents owes itself to their patience. And yet, they are fading. In a single human lifetime, giants that once ruled the poles have thinned, cracked, and carved into the sea. Their loss is more than physical. It's the erasure of memory. When a glacier melts, it releases the air of ancient summers, bubbles that once filled the lungs of mammoths, the winds of forgotten climates. The past literally exhales into the present. If you listen carefully near their edge, you can hear them drip, sigh, and whisper. The sound is gentle, but heavy with time. A reminder that even the strongest things can vanish softly. Before a storm, before the first drop falls, there is mist. It rises slowly from lakes, from rivers, from your own skin, a veil spun from warmth and waiting. Clouds begin as invisible vapor. When warm air rises and cools, the molecules slow, cluster together, and turn visible. A billion droplets suspended in air, too light to fall. They are water learning to float. Each droplet clings to a nucleus, a speck of dust, salt, or ash. Without these imperfections, clouds could not exist. Even in the sky, flaws are what make beauty possible. There are many kinds of clouds. Cirrus, the wisps of silk high above. Cumulus, white mountains of air. Stratus, grey blankets that bring quiet rain. Together, they shape our light, our shadows, our moods. The mist near the ground fog is the same process reversed. When the air cools faster than the earth, the sky descends to touch us. We walk inside a cloud. Sound softens, distance disappears, and the world folds into mystery. Mist is patient. It doesn't rush to become rain. It lingers, hovering between being and becoming. It blurs edges, hides detail, inviting us to see softly. For ancient poets, mist was spirit, the border between worlds. For scientists, it's the transition between gas and liquid, a temporary equilibrium. But for anyone standing in it, it feels like peace, the earth exhaling warmth into the cool. When morning sun finally breaks through, the mist doesn't vanish, it ascends. Like thought returning to dream, like breath returning to sky. At the edge of morning, when night still lingers, but the world begins to stir, the first rays of sunlight touch water, and the earth awakens in reflection. Lakes become mirrors, rivers gleam like silver ribbons, and the ocean vast, breathing, endless glows gold for a single heartbeat before turning blue again. This is not just beauty, it's physics and grace entwined. When sunlight strikes the surface at a shallow angle, it reflects more than it absorbs. That's why sunrise feels brighter on water than on land. Each wave catches light and sends it outward like an offering. At dawn, the air is still cool, the water warmer, so mist rises, soft, pale, trembling. The sunlight filters through it, scattering red and amber hues. Long wavelengths travel farther through the thick morning air, painting the world in warmth before the blues return to dominate the day. To the ancient world, this moment was sacred. Fishermen believed dawn was the hour when the sea forgave. Monks watched sunrise over lakes and saw in it the shape of prayer. For them, water was not reflecting the sky. It was the sky, come down to meet them. The calm of dawn is measurable. Winds are gentler, humidity steadier, pressure balanced. Birds take flight not only because of light, but because the air then is most stable. A cradle for wings. Even your pulse slows slightly when you watch a sunrise over water. The human body sinking, unconsciously, to the planet's rhythm of awakening. As the first light grows, ripples catch it and scatter it again, breaking it into hundreds of tiny suns. No two reflections are ever the same. The image shifts with every breath of wind, every fish that stirs below. The dawn's mirror reminds us, reflection is not stillness. It's movement held briefly in balance. It's the world, looking back at itself and smiling. Walk along the shoreline after a wave retreats, and look down. There, at your feet, lies a universe of pattern. Tiny ridges, spirals and crescents drawn in wet sand, a signature that will vanish before you can finish reading it. These shapes are formed by the meeting of two forces, gravity pulling water back to sea, and the next wave rushing forward. Their interference creates oscillations, small currents twisting and folding, leaving behind ripples known as sand patterns of turbulence. Each design is unique. Each one holds a mathematical fingerprint, the chaotic order of fluid dynamics rendered in grains. The same equations that govern galaxies govern this fleeting sculpture at your toes. Foam is the ocean's handwriting. It appears white because light scatters off countless bubbles, each one a thin film of water wrapped around air, bursting, reforming, bursting again. If you listen closely, you can hear them, a faint crackle, like whispers fading in sequence. To marine scientists, this sound is data, a measure of salinity, pressure, and wind speed. To the poet's ear, it's the ocean talking to itself. Foam patterns vanish within seconds, but they leave traces of rhythm in the sand. Curves, spirals, lines, repeating across the shore. If you could freeze time, you would see them rearranging endlessly, like thought itself reshaping within the mind. The Japanese word nami no hana means flowers of the wave. They saw beauty in impermanence, in the way foam blooms and dies within moments. That's what the shoreline teaches. Transience is not loss. It's renewal, again and again, as the sea rewrites its story in every tide. Every ripple erased is an invitation for another to begin. The beach never ends. It only breathes. At night, when the wind stills and the surface of a lake lies flat, the sky descends. Stars duplicate themselves upon the water, and for a moment, the earth seems to vanish between two infinities, above and below, both shimmering. What you're seeing is perfect reflection. When light hits water at a calm angle, it bounces back almost entirely. The darker the surroundings, the more complete the illusion. It's why ancient travelers used lakes as mirrors for navigation, to align stars when clouds hid the horizon. The water doesn't just mirror light, it reshapes it. Tiny ripples distort the reflection into waves of motion, turning constellations into soft pulses of glow. To your eyes, the stars appear to dance. To physics, it's refraction and diffraction, light bending through layers of moving density. Astronomers once called this stellar shimmer, and they use still ponds to study it. Even now, observatories build telescopes atop high lakes or salt flats, where the air is steady and water's mirror helps calibrate their vision of the cosmos. But the poetry runs deeper. When you see stars reflected in water, you are seeing ancient light, beams that left their origins before humanity began, now kissing molecules that have cycled through every cloud, every ocean, every tear. The oldest things in the universe meet the most familiar element on Earth, and together they make something eternal. In myth, water was always a passage. To the Greeks, it divided the world of the living from the realm of dreams. To the Polynesians, it was a map of heaven. Every star above had its echo below. When you look into that mirrored sky, you realize you're not gazing up or down. You're floating between. And somewhere, in that reflection, the universe recognizes itself. From space, a hurricane looks like a living eye, a perfect spiral, white and infinite, turning with the grace of galaxies. But up close, it is power made visible, a cathedral of motion and moisture. Hurricanes, typhoons, cyclones, different names, one force. They begin where ocean warmth meets sky hunger. As sunlight heats tropical waters, air above them rises, creating a low-pressure cradle. More air rushes in to fill the void, and the planet's rotation, the Coriolis effect, twists that movement into a spiral. A storm is born not from anger, but imbalance. Heat seeks release. Air seeks order. And what we call destruction is, to the atmosphere, a way of remembering equilibrium. Inside the eye, there is calm. So calm, in fact, that the sea below can shimmer like glass. But just outside that stillness, winds howl at over 200 kilometers per hour, walls of vapor soaring upward, carrying heat and energy into the stratosphere. Each droplet lifted becomes part of a greater choreography, a vortex that feeds upon difference. Lightning flashes within the cloud walls. Thunder rolls through layers of air, miles thick. Raindrops fall sideways, seeming to hang in midair before being swept back upward. And yet, when you see it from above, it is breathtaking, a symbol of geometry's stubborn beauty even in chaos. When the storm finally reaches land, its energy breaks, its form dissolves, and all that remains is rain. The gentle echo of what once roared, the balance restored. Scientists track hurricanes to predict danger, but they also study them as teachers, because within that spiral lies the universe's oldest pattern. Motion drawn toward center, force balanced by stillness. From galaxies to seashells, the spiral repeats. It is nature's way of saying, even in fury, there is design. It seems impossible that something born of flame could bring forth rain. And yet, every drop of water owes something to fire. When volcanoes erupt, they release vast clouds of steam, superheated vapor drawn from deep inside the earth. Along with it come carbon dioxide, sulfur, and dust. These particles rise into the atmosphere, cool, and begin to condense water vapor. They become the seeds of clouds. In the early Earth, when the planet still wore a shell of magma, it was volcanic exhalation that created the first atmosphere. The oceans themselves, the blue skin of the world, were born from this heat. Every wave you've ever seen is the cooled breath of the planet's fire. Even today, volcanic eruptions can alter rainfall patterns for years. Fine ash and aerosols scatter sunlight, cooling air and changing where moisture gathers. In some regions, drought follows. In others, rain falls endlessly. The balance is delicate, but the connection is ancient. When lava meets the sea, the exchange is immediate. Steam billows, salt crystallizes, and water is transformed into vapor and back again within moments. Creation and destruction collapse into one another. In a very real sense, fire completes the cycle of water. It lifts it, purifies it, renews it. Even as it consumes, it prepares the world for rebirth. The next time thunder rumbles far away, or rain begins to fall on a cooling evening, remember that somewhere deep below, the earth still burns, and that fire and water are not enemies, but partners in the long dance of renewal. Without flame, there would be no sky. Without heat, no ocean. Without chaos, no calm. The balance holds, one element always giving way to the other, and both remembering their shared beginning. Beneath the dunes of the Sahara, beneath the cracked clay of Australia, beneath the salt pans of Chile, water still moves. Slowly, patiently, invisibly. Ancient rivers once crossed these lands, broad, glittering, alive with reeds and fish. When climates shifted and heat conquered rain, the rivers didn't vanish, they sank. Today, deep below the surface, lie vast fossil aquifers, seas trapped underground for tens of thousands of years. They flow through sandstone veins, sealed away from sunlight and storm. Some are so large they could flood continents if freed. They are called paleo waters, ghosts of the Earth's wetter past. Scientists map them using satellite radar, listening for echoes that bounce differently through water and rock. And when they drill, they sometimes find water that fell as rain during the Ice Age. Ancient, untouched. A message from a cooler Earth. These hidden aquifers feed oases. Green miracles rising from nothingness. Palm trees, date groves, and small villages survive because of these buried seas. The Bedouins once called them the veins of God, for even in a land that seems lifeless, the planet continues to pulse. Water moves underground more slowly than thought itself. A droplet may take 1,000 years to travel a mile, and yet it never stops. It reminds us that life doesn't always show itself, that endurance often wears the mask of silence. To walk across the desert knowing an ocean sleeps below is to understand faith. For the earth hides its miracles, not to keep them from us, but to teach us patience. Because even in the driest heart of the world, the promise of rain is still alive, waiting, deep and blue, beneath our feet. Imagine a single drop of water, resting at the edge of a leaf after rain. Its life may seem still, but it is already beginning its next voyage. A gust of wind lifts it as mist. The sun's warmth gives it energy, and suddenly it becomes vapor, weightless, invisible, free. It drifts upward into the sky, joins a cloud, and begins a journey that may last days, months, even centuries. That same drop might fall again tomorrow, landing on a glacier in Iceland. It could be trapped there for 1,000 years, frozen in blue stillness, watching light shift across ages. Or it might fall into a stream, rush down mountains, spin into rivers, and merge with the sea. Once in the ocean, its travels multiply. Currents carry it across hemispheres, through warm equators and icy poles. The Gulf Stream, the Kuroshio, the Antarctic circumpolar. These are the highways of its pilgrimage. Along the way, it meets sunlight again, rises into the sky, and begins the cycle anew. That same molecule could one day fall as snow on the Himalayas, or as rain on your skin, or condense into a tear. It has seen volcanoes, forests, coral reefs, and the breath of countless creatures. You are, quite literally, drinking the memory of oceans. Every sip of water is recycled time. Each molecule has passed through clouds, ice, stone, and bone. There is no new water on Earth. Only motion. Only change. So when you watch a raindrop slide down glass, remember, it may once have touched the scales of an ancient fish, fallen on the fur of a mammoth, or shimmered on a fern beneath the first dawn. The journey of a drop never ends. It simply changes shape, forever searching for where it began. Inside you, right now, the ocean still breathes. Your blood is a tide, salty, rhythmic, pulled by unseen currents. Every heartbeat sends waves through your body, echoing the same pulse that moves the sea. We are, in composition, 70% water, and that water carries the signature of the first oceans. Billions of years ago, life began in the sea's embrace. Simple cells floated in warm salt water, protected by membranes that kept the balance of minerals. When those cells learned to live on land, they brought the sea with them, trapping it inside. Every human cell contains this memory, a miniature ocean of sodium, potassium, and chloride, in perfect proportion to the primordial sea. Our tears, our sweat, our plasma, they are echoes of that origin. When you cry, it is the ocean remembering itself. When you bleed, you are made of tides. This is not metaphor, it is chemistry. The balance of water and salt within us determines every nerve signal, every muscle's movement, every heartbeat's rhythm. Without that ocean inside, we could not live a second. And beyond biology, there's poetry in this truth. It means we never really left the sea. We carry it in our veins, in the fluid that cushions our joints, in the moisture that fills our lungs with each breath. When we swim, our bodies recognize the cradle of their beginning. We are home. So next time you stand before the ocean, watching waves collapse and renew, know that the boundary between you and it is illusion. You are both part of the same rhythm, the same salt, the same story. The ocean is not outside you, it is within. In the high valleys of Iceland, in the shadowed forests of Yellowstone, in the silent deserts of Chile, water boils, but not from the Sunday. Hot springs are where the earth exhales. Rain seeps into the ground, travels deep through fractures of rock, and meets molten stone below. There it heats, pressurized, purified, transformed, until it finds a path upward again, bursting through the crust as steam and mineral water. Every geyser and fumarole is a conversation between surface and core. Each eruption of steam carries with it gases from deep time: carbon dioxide, sulfur, hydrogen. They rise in shimmering curtains, painting the air with the smell of the Earth's breath. Around these springs, life thrives in extremes. Microbes survive temperatures above boiling, their pigments turning the pools into mosaics of orange, green, and gold. They feed on iron and sulfur, transforming poison into energy, living proof that life's boundaries are wider than we imagined. Hot springs also write colour into stone. Mineral deposits build terraces, forming travertine and silica mounds that glow in sunlight. Each layer records years of flow, a slow sculpting of the landscape by water and heat. Ancient cultures called these places sacred, doors to the underworld, temples of healing. They bathed in the warmth, believing the earth's own fire could cleanse the spirit. And perhaps they were right, for even now, to stand beside a hot spring is to feel the planet alive beneath your feet. Steam curls upward like prayer, droplets condense on skin, and as you breathe in the mineral air, you can almost sense the heartbeat beneath the crust. Steady, ancient, patiently burning. Long before there were oceans, long before the earth had form, there was only dust and light. And yet, hidden among that dust were molecules of water, drifting through space. Water, it turns out, is older than our planet. Astronomers have found traces of it in interstellar clouds, massive cold nebulae of gas and ice that existed billions of years before the sun was born. There, ultraviolet light and cosmic rays triggered chemistry on tiny grains of dust, combining hydrogen and oxygen atoms into H2O. Every molecule formed in that silence, every droplet frozen in space, was waiting for gravity to gather it. When stars ignited, they flung some of that ancient ice outward in comets' frozen archives of the early universe. Those comets wandered for eons until they collided with the young Earth, delivering oceans drop by drop. Every sea, every river, every tear that has ever fallen, all of it began in those cold, distant clouds. The water in your veins is older than the Sunday. The molecules in your coffee, in your breath, once drifted between the stars. Even today, telescopes detect water vapor in faraway galaxies, spiraling around infant suns. It seems wherever there is potential for life, there is water. The universe's way of remembering creation. So when rain falls on your skin, it is not only weather, it is the cosmos returning to itself. Each drop is a message billions of years old, whispering, "I have travelled across eternity to touch you again." Every morning, when sunlight strikes a lake, you witness an ancient experiment repeated in silence. Light bends, splits, and returns, a dialogue between matter and meaning. When photons meet water, some pass through, some scatter, and some bounce back. This combination of reflection and refraction creates the shimmer that makes every surface seem alive. But there is more beneath the surface than optics. Light entering water slows down, its wavelength shortens, its path curves. That's why fish seem closer than they are, why the world below the surface looks dreamlike, distorted, as though painted with memory instead of colour. At greater depths, red disappears first, then orange, yellow, and green, until only blue remains. That's why the sea is not truly blue. It is the absence of every other colour. It's the spectrum surrendering to silence. The reflection of light off waves also changes our perception of the sky. When you see ripples of silver and gold across the surface, you are watching sunlight fractured by motion, each crest and trough turning into a living prism. Its randomness turned radiant. Painters have spent centuries chasing this secret, trying to capture the way water both holds and releases light. But the truth is, it cannot be held. It must move to exist. It must break to shine. Water doesn't only teach us how to see, it teaches us how to look, to find beauty not in permanence, but in reflection, in the things that shimmer briefly, then disappear. So the next time you see the sun tremble across a river, or a face ripple in a pond, remember, you are not seeing what is. You are seeing what was, just moments ago. Light's memory, carried by water's grace. The ocean tastes of eternity, salty, ancient, familiar, as if every tear ever shed has found its way back home. That salt is not accidental. It is the slow accumulation of Earth's history. Rain falls, wears down rock, dissolves minerals, sodium, chloride, magnesium, calcium, and carries them to the sea. Over billions of years, those elements gathered and mixed, forming the precise salinity that makes life possible. Without salt, the ocean would freeze more easily, its currents would slow, its chemistry would fail to support life. Salt is the ocean's heartbeat, the mineral memory that keeps its rhythm steady. It's also balance. Evaporation removes only water, not salt. So as rain refills rivers and rivers feed the sea, the concentration stabilizes. Nature maintains itself not through perfection, but through patience. Even our own bodies echo this equilibrium. Our blood salinity matches that of ancient seas, a resonance between flesh and planet. Each heartbeat mirrors a tide, each breath mirrors a wave. Salt also shapes sound. In seawater, it conducts vibrations more efficiently, carrying whale songs across entire oceans. Those low, mournful notes travel for thousands of miles, woven through currents and thermoclines, connecting creatures that will never meet. Every grain of sea salt you taste is a fragment of vanished mountains, a flake of ancient fire, a molecule that has drifted through rivers, storms, and veins. The ocean holds not just water, but the dissolved memory of the world. It reminds us that endurance can be gentle, that balance is not stillness, but the long patience of salt and time. And when you stand at the shore, the air thick with salt and spray, you breathe in that patience. You breathe in the earth remembering itself. Above every ocean, above every forest and city, the sky is alive, breathing. Each cloud you see drifting overhead is not static. It's the visible rhythm of the planet's inhale and exhale. Every second, trillions of water molecules rise from oceans and rivers, lifted by sunlight and wind. They form invisible vapor, the sky's first quiet breath. Then, as air cools, that vapor condenses into droplets, creating clouds, the sky's lungs filling once again. When those droplets grow heavy, gravity pulls them back down as rain, the sky's slow, patient exhale. And so, it continues. Rise, cool, fall, return. A breath that never stops. This process, the hydrologic cycle, moves more energy around the planet than any other force. It cools the equator, warms the poles, feeds rivers, and fills aquifers. Without it, there would be no balance, no rhythm, no life. But clouds do more than move water. They shape light itself. Sunlight scatters through droplets and ice crystals, painting the sky with golds and purples, softening shadows, diffusing day into 1,000 shades of calm. Even their whiteness is illusion. 1,000,000 reflections layered upon each other until light becomes texture. At night, clouds trap warmth, wrapping the world in an invisible blanket. By day, they shield the surface from heat. They are the planet's breath and its heartbeat. expanding and contracting with the turning of the earth. If you've ever watched a cloud drift until it dissolves into blue, you've seen the universe's gentlest transformation. Something becoming nothing, then becoming something again. Every wisp, every cumulus tower is the sky remembering the sea, and every drop of rain is the sea remembering the sky. If you could follow one drop of water from the heart of a storm to the stillness of an underground spring, you would see the story of existence itself. It falls, splashes, soaks, flows, evaporates, freezes, melts, and rises again. It becomes mist, snow, river, blood, breath. It joins oceans and clouds. It becomes life and memory. It leaves and returns. No other substance behaves like this. Water defies boundaries. It can shape rock, hold heat, reflect light, and cradle life. It flows through mountains, through cells, through time. It never stops moving, never stops transforming, yet never ceases to be itself. Every river is a thread in its tapestry. Every glacier a slow-moving thought. Every raindrop a brief note in its eternal song. And in that song lies something sacred. The reminder that to move forward, one must also return. When water evaporates, it doesn't die. When snow melts, it doesn't end. It shifts form, trades shape for purpose, and finds its way home again. Perhaps that's what it means to live gently, to flow without fear, to yield without losing oneself, to remember that stillness and motion are not opposites, but companions. Look at a river. It never forces its way. It follows gravity, follows patience, carves canyons not through violence, but persistence. Softness outlasts stone, and when it finally reaches the sea, it dissolves without resistance, becoming one with everything it ever touched. We are made of that same lesson. We rise, we fall, we return. We move in cycles of breath and becoming, each heartbeat a tide. So when you hold a glass of water in your hands, know that you are holding history, oceans, stars, storms, and whispers of everything that ever was. And as you drink, you become part of its story, the newest shape of something ancient, something endless, something that never forgot how to begin again. And now, as the final ripple fades, as the tide pulls softly away from the shore of sound, you begin to realize that everything we've seen, from the first frozen drop to the farthest star, has been one single movement, the movement of water. It has taken many forms throughout this journey. Rain whispering through the leaves, waves blooming beneath the moon, glaciers murmuring in their sleep, clouds dissolving into dawn. And beneath every shimmer, every breath, there has always been one truth. Nothing ever truly ends. It only flows. The ocean was once vapor. The vapor was once ice. The ice was once dust adrift between stars. And somehow, all of it, every drop, has gathered here, inside you. You carry the ocean in your veins, its patience, its salt, its ancient memory. Every heartbeat is a small tide. Every breath a wave returning home. Close your eyes for a moment and listen. Can you hear it? That faint rhythm beneath your heartbeat. That's the earth breathing through you. The same sound you'd hear beside a glacier or standing over a sleeping sea. Each inhale evaporation, each exhale rain. You are part of the same cycle that has turned for billions of years. The planet drinks the sky drinks the sea, and the sea gives itself back again. A perfect exchange, gentle, constant, eternal. When the first life stirred in the primordial ocean, it learned to move with the current, not against it. And maybe that's what water has tried to teach us ever since. To yield without surrender, to transform without losing essence, to flow without forgetting where we began. Water does not conquer, it endures. It softens stone not with force, but with time, touch after touch, century after century, until even granite learns gentleness. It teaches us that patience is not weakness, that surrender can be strength, that quiet persistence shapes worlds. Every storm ends in calm, every wave returns to stillness, and every droplet, no matter how far it travels, finds its way home. Perhaps that's why the sound of rain soothes us, because somewhere deep within, we remember that rhythm. We are built from it. We are it. The same molecules that fell upon ancient oceans now rest upon your skin. The same vapor that curled through prehistoric skies now fills your lungs. You are not separate from the weather, nor from the rivers or the clouds. You are continuity, momentarily shaped into human form. And when you rest, when the noise of the world fades into distance, you return to that silence where water began. A silence not of absence, but of fullness, the kind that fills everything. Every thought, every cell, every dream. Somewhere tonight, a glacier cracks softly in the dark. Somewhere, rain falls on a forest you'll never walk. Somewhere, deep beneath the soil, a drop of water begins a 1,000-year journey toward light. And all of it, every ripple, every echo, is connected to this breath, this heartbeat, this stillness. You are not apart from the world. You are its reflection, a wave of memory, a current passing through time, a mirror through which the universe sees itself and smiles. Let that realization settle, slowly, gently, like silt sinking through a clear stream. Feel the quiet inside your chest spreading outward, until your body becomes its own tide pool of calm. There is no ending here, only merging. Only the soft, endless exchange of water becoming air, air becoming mist, mist becoming rain again. Even your dreams follow this pattern, rising and falling, holding and releasing, until they dissolve into morning light. And as the stars continue their slow, endless dance above, you can let your thoughts drift with them, lighter, slower, softer. The world keeps turning, the rivers keep moving, and somewhere, in that secret space between sky and sea, a single droplet, perhaps one that once touched your skin, is rising again to begin its story anew. Rest now, traveller. You are home.